Michael rushed through the airport with a sense of urgency that made every step feel heavier than it should. His suitcase rolled behind him on its small wheels, clattering against the polished floor with every step. The boarding gate for his flight was getting closer, and the announcement in the distance reminded him of the ticking clock. Michael had a meeting that he could not miss, a meeting that could change the direction of his career. He had planned every detail of the day, from waking up early to grabbing a quick breakfast to getting to the airport with plenty of time to spare. But now, as he weaved through the crowd, he realized that the line between punctuality and chaos was thinner than he had ever imagined. The terminal was busy. Families with small children jostled through the corridors. Business travelers with laptop bags walked quickly, and flight attendants moved briskly, giving instructions. Michael tried to focus, ignoring the crowd and the distractions. His mind was only on the gate number and the boarding time. Every second seemed critical. He glanced at his watch and cursed under his breath. 10 minutes left. He could make it if nothing slowed him down. But then he saw the man. At first, Michael almost didn't notice him. He was on the edge of the hallway, holding onto a suitcase that seemed far too heavy for him. His back was slightly hunched, his hands shaky. The man's eyes were scanning the terminal as if trying to find a place that could guide him. He wore a faded military cap with several small medals pinned to it. Michael immediately recognized the aura of someone who had lived through something extraordinary, but was now struggling with ordinary tasks. Michael slowed down, uncertainty flickering in his mind. He knew he was already cutting it close for his flight, but something inside him told him to stop. He approached the man carefully, trying not to startle him. "Excuse me, sir. Do you need some help?" Michael asked. The elderly man looked at him with surprise, then relief washed over his face. "Oh, yes, please," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "I'm trying to reach my gate, but I'm not sure where to go." Michael smiled reassuringly and lifted one side of the man's heavy suitcase. The metal wheels rattled against the tile as he adjusted it. "Don't worry. I'll help you. Let's find your gate together." The man's hands trembled slightly as he held onto his small case of medals. Michael noticed how important it seemed to him, as if it was a part of his identity. "These are from your service?" Michael asked softly, not wanting to sound intrusive. "Yes," the man said, a faint pride in his voice. "I fought a long time ago. I'm just trying to make it to my flight to see old friends." "It's been a while." Michael nodded. "Then let's get you there safely." As they moved together, Michael began to notice the small things. The way the man struggled with the airport machines, the way he hesitated at every turn, the way he had to rest for a moment every few steps. Michael felt a tug in his heart. He could feel the weight of his own busy life, his endless meetings, and deadlines fading in importance compared to this moment of helping someone who had given so much. They stopped at the security checkpoint, and the elderly man looked anxious. Michael guided him through the line, explaining the steps quietly. "Just place your bag on the belt, sir. Step through the scanner slowly. You'll be fine." The man followed Michael's instructions, occasionally nodding. "I'm sorry for taking your time," he said. "You must be late for your flight." Michael shook his head. "Don't worry about me. We'll make it work. It's more important that you get through safely." By the time they reached the other side of security, Michael looked at his watch and felt a pang of worry. The boarding time for his flight had passed. He had missed it. Panic tried to rise in his chest, but he quickly pushed it down. Helping this man had been the right thing to do. He reminded himself that some things mattered more than schedules and meetings. The elderly man smiled faintly, noticing Michael's glance at the time. "You've been very kind," he said. "I don't know many people who would stop to help an old soldier these days." Michael felt a warmth in his chest. "It's nothing. Just glad I could help." They walked together toward a waiting area. The man finally sat down, catching his breath. Michael pulled up a chair next to him, realizing that the flight he had missed was now out of his control. He tried calling the airline, explaining the situation, but the line was busy and the next flight was hours away. He sank into the chair, a mix of frustration and peace in his mind. As they waited, Michael asked the man about his life. He learned that he had served in the military decades ago, had seen places most people could only imagine, and had experienced moments that were both terrifying and heroic. Michael listened intently, captivated by the stories of courage, struggle, and resilience. The man's eyes lit up when he spoke of his comrades. of the bonds formed under difficult circumstances, and of the honor he felt serving his country. For Michael, the hours passed quickly, even though they were technically late for his own plans. He realized that the rush and stress of his life, the obsession with time, and the endless to-do lists were small in comparison to the human connections that could happen in a moment of choice. He had stopped for someone in need, and that decision had made the day unforgettable. While waiting, other travelers passed by, rushing to catch flights, unaware of the quiet moment of compassion happening nearby. Michael and the man continued talking, sharing memories and small laughs. The terminal noise faded into the background, and for a while it was just the two of them in a bubble of shared humanity. Michael looked at the man one last time before standing. "Do you want me to stay until they announce your gate?" he asked. The man shook his head. "No, I think I can manage now. Thank you for everything." "I won't forget your kindness," Michael nodded. "Take care, sir. Safe travels." He watched the elderly veteran slowly make his way toward the gate, and then Michael turned to find a quiet corner. He had missed his flight, yes, but he had done something that mattered more than any meeting. Little did he know, the decision to stay with the man would soon have consequences he could never have imagined. Michael had settled into a quiet corner of the terminal, thinking he would simply wait for the next available flight. He checked his phone, scrolling through emails and messages, but his mind kept wandering back to the elderly veteran he had helped. He wondered if the man had reached his gate safely. The small moments of connection they had shared, the stories of courage and loss, the shared smiles kept playing in his mind. He realized that this was not a typical day at the airport. It was something different, something that made him think about life in a way he rarely did. Suddenly, the calm of the terminal began to shift. Security personnel started moving quickly, though without the usual urgency of a public announcement. People looked around confused, whispering to each other. The usual hum of conversations and rolling suitcases became tense, as though everyone was sensing that something unusual was happening. An announcement came over the loudspeakers, but it was vague and unnerving. "Attention passengers, please clear this area immediately. Follow the instructions of airport personnel." There was no mention of an emergency, no explanation of what was happening. People looked at each other, uncertain, some worried, some annoyed. Michael's heart began to beat faster. He wasn't sure what was going on, but he stayed calm. He noticed the elderly veteran nearby, standing with a steady posture despite the commotion. Michael approached him quickly. "Sir, are you okay?" "We should probably move with everyone else," the man nodded. "Yes, I am fine. Thank you for staying near me." Michael helped him walk toward the exit as instructed by the security officers. The crowd was moving in a controlled but urgent manner. Michael noticed that the airport staff were unusually professional, keeping people calm and focused, yet moving with speed that suggested something serious was happening behind the scenes. As they walked, Michael saw more signs of unusual activity. Airport workers were blocking off areas that were normally open to passengers. Vehicles with flashing lights appeared outside the terminal, but there were no sirens, no explosions, no obvious danger visible. It was mysterious and tense. Michael stayed close to the veteran, making sure he was safe and not confused by the sudden changes. "Do you know anyone here?" Michael asked, hoping to distract the man from the tension. "No," the veteran replied quietly. "I am just trying to reach my gate. This is new to me." Michael nodded, understanding. He had never experienced anything like this before either. The uncertainty was unsettling. He thought about how fragile life could feel in a sudden situation like this. The terminal, which moments ago had seemed ordinary and mundane, now felt like a place where anything could happen. They reached a temporary waiting area, away from the main gates. Other passengers were gathered there, looking anxious and talking quietly among themselves. Michael noticed how some were checking their phones, trying to find news while others were simply sitting in silence, processing the unusual events. He looked at the elderly veteran who seemed calm despite everything. "You're handling this better than most people," Michael said. The man smiled faintly. "I've been through storms before in my life. Sometimes staying calm is all you can do." Michael admired the man's wisdom. He realized that this simple act of helping someone had connected him to a person with a lifetime of experiences and strength. It made him reflect on his own life, the rush, the meetings, the deadlines, and how small and fleeting they seemed compared to moments like these. Time passed slowly in the temporary waiting area. Michael noticed security officers moving purposefully, but they avoided giving any detailed explanations. People were curious, some even anxious, asking questions, but the officers only smiled politely and urged everyone to remain calm. Michael tried to piece together what might be happening. A bomb threat? A technical issue? An emergency evacuation? None of it was clear, and the lack of information made the situation more stressful for many passengers. Yet Michael stayed focused on the veteran. The man seemed to trust him, and that trust gave Michael a sense of responsibility he couldn't ignore. Minutes turned into an hour. The terminal remained closed, and the air of mystery grew thicker. Michael felt a mixture of worry and awe. He had missed his flight earlier, which had seemed frustrating, but now he felt a strange sense of relief. The idea that he might have avoided being in the main terminal during this unexpected situation crossed his mind. Though he didn't want to jump to conclusions, he struck up a conversation with the veteran to keep both of them calm. They talked about small things, family, favorite books, and memories of places they had visited. Michael learned that the man had lived a long and full life, but now the simple act of traveling had become unexpectedly complicated. The veteran's calm demeanor was comforting, and Michael felt a sense of connection that transcended age and background. Then, Michael noticed the reactions of the other passengers around them. Some were visibly nervous, whispering about what could have happened. Others were trying to contact family members to ensure everyone was safe. The atmosphere was tense but controlled, a strange mix of fear and reassurance. Michael realized that this situation could have been chaotic, but the professionalism of the airport staff was keeping everyone as safe as possible. Michael's thoughts drifted again to his missed flight. If he had rushed ahead, he might have been in the terminal when the evacuation started. He realized that helping the veteran had kept him out of harm's way, though he didn't yet know the details of what might have happened. A feeling of gratitude mixed with relief filled him. Hours seemed to pass, though time was hard to measure in the quiet uncertainty. The veteran remained calm, occasionally sharing stories of his past missions and experiences. Michael listened attentively, finding comfort in the rhythm of conversation amid the unusual circumstances. The terminal outside remained off limits, and the reason for the evacuation was still unknown to anyone in the waiting area. Finally, a security officer addressed the group, explaining that the terminal would remain closed for the time being due to a security concern. No further details could be released, but everyone would be allowed back once it was safe. Michael looked at the veteran, who nodded with quiet understanding. They had made it through an unexpected challenge together, and their shared experience had created a bond that neither would forget. As they waited for the terminal to reopen, Michael reflected on the day's events. He had missed his flight, yes, but he had also done something meaningful. Helping the veteran had altered his path in ways he could not yet understand. Michael felt a sense of calm, knowing that sometimes life's delays and interruptions were not just obstacles. They were opportunities for connection, growth, and unexpected protection. The mystery of the cleared terminal loomed over him. But he knew one thing for certain: helping someone in need, even when inconvenient, was the right choice. And in that moment, Michael realized that small acts of kindness could have profound effects, not just on others, but on himself as well. After what felt like hours, the announcement came. The terminal would reopen, though authorities still gave no details about what had happened. Michael watched as people began moving back toward the gates cautiously but with relief in their steps. The atmosphere was lighter, though curiosity and whispered questions filled the air. No one seemed to know exactly why the terminal had been evacuated or what the security concern had been. Michael helped the elderly veteran stand. "Shall we head back?" he asked. The man smiled faintly. "Yes, I think it is time. Thank you for staying with me. I don't know what I would have done alone." Michael guided him carefully through the reopened areas. As they walked, he noticed the terminal felt different somehow. The usual hustle was there, but people moved with a sense of renewed awareness, a recognition that life can change in an instant. Michael felt the same. His perspective on time, schedules, and stress had shifted in subtle but profound ways. They reached the gate where the veteran's flight was waiting. The man turned to Michael and shook his hand firmly. "I don't know how to thank you enough. You showed me kindness when it mattered the most." Michael smiled. "It was nothing. I'm glad I could help." Take care of yourself, sir. As the veteran walked toward his gate, Michael noticed something unusual. A few uniformed officers were speaking quietly among themselves, and some vehicles that had been outside earlier were now gone. The terminal seemed calm again, but the lack of information about the earlier evacuation left Michael with a lingering sense of mystery. He returned to his own gate area to check on flights and find a replacement for the one he had missed. While waiting, Michael's phone buzzed. News alerts were beginning to trickle in. He read carefully. A suspicious package had been found in a different part of the terminal, and authorities had evacuated people as a precaution. The package had been safely removed and contained nothing dangerous. The terminal closure had been an extraordinary but necessary measure. Michael leaned back in his chair, taking a deep breath. Relief washed over him. By helping the elderly veteran, he had been away from the section of the terminal affected by the evacuation. He realized that missing his original flight, which had frustrated him earlier, had kept him out of a potentially dangerous situation. What had seemed like bad luck was, in fact, an unexpected protection. As he thought about the day, Michael reflected on how small choices can change life in meaningful ways. He had chosen to stop and help someone in need. He had sacrificed his schedule, his meeting, and the convenience of catching his flight. Yet that simple act had brought him safety, perspective, and a profound human connection. He felt grateful, not frustrated, for the experience. Michael noticed other travelers around him, some sharing their experiences on social media, others calling family members to assure them they were safe. He realized that each person had their own story from the day, some stressful, some enlightening, and some quietly heroic. For Michael, the quiet act of helping a veteran had made the day unforgettable. He thought about the veteran, about the stories he had shared, and the calm strength he had shown during the evacuation. Michael realized that the man's life experiences had shaped him in ways Michael could admire and learn from. The encounter had been brief, but its impact was lasting. Michael felt a sense of humility and inspiration that would stay with him far beyond the airport. Soon, Michael received a notification for the next available flight. He booked it and waited patiently, reflecting on the events. He realized that the world can be unpredictable, and life can throw challenges at anyone at any time. What mattered most was how one responded to those challenges. Michael had chosen compassion, patience, and presence over hurry and self-interest, and the result was more meaningful than he could have imagined. When it was finally time to board, Michael looked around one last time. He thought about all the passengers, the security officers, and the quiet courage of people facing uncertainty. He remembered the sense of fear, tension, and eventual relief. And he remembered the elderly veteran who had reminded him that life is not just about schedules or success, but about kindness, understanding, and shared humanity. Michael took his seat on the plane, feeling a mixture of gratitude and reflection. His phone buzzed with messages from colleagues wondering why he had missed the meeting, but he smiled quietly. The meeting was important, yes, but it could never compare to the lessons he had learned today or the lives he had touched and been touched by. As the plane took off, Michael looked out of the window at the busy airport below. He saw the terminal, the vehicles, and the passengers moving about, unaware of the quiet drama that had unfolded earlier. A sense of calm settled over him. He realized that life often moves faster than we can control, and that sometimes the right decision is not the fastest or most convenient, but the one guided by empathy and care. Days later, Michael would share the story with friends and family. He spoke about the missed flight, the terminal evacuation, and the elderly veteran he had helped. Each time he recounted the story, he emphasized the simple but powerful lesson. Small acts of kindness can change the course of a day, or even a life, in ways we cannot predict. The experience stayed with Michael, not as an inconvenience or a missed opportunity, but as a moment of human connection and unexpected protection. He often thought of the veteran, wondering if the man had safely reached his destination and how the reunion with his friends had gone. Michael hoped that he had helped the veteran as much as the encounter had helped him gain perspective and understanding. In the end, Michael realized that life's most meaningful moments often happen when we act with compassion, even when it is inconvenient. Helping someone in need, showing patience, and putting others first could create ripples of impact far beyond what we can imagine. The missed flight, The evacuation and the mysterious circumstances had all taught him that life is unpredictable. But kindness is always the right choice. Michael closed his eyes briefly as the plane soared above the clouds. The airport, the chaos and the uncertainty were behind him now. Ahead lay new opportunities, meetings, and challenges, but the lesson remained clear. The day had shown him that helping someone, even a stranger, can change everything, and sometimes what seems like a misfortune is actually a blessing in disguise.